Hey everyone, and welcome back to Local Leaders, the podcast. And look, I'm excited today because I have some familiar faces in front of me, known them a long time. And if you are in the Livingston Parish area, you might know them too. They're David and Marissa Hofstetter. So first off, and you're with Restoration One, but first off, welcome.
Yep. Thanks for having us.
Happy
Thanks
to
for
be
having
here
me back.
I'm excited to have y'all here. And look, we couldn't pick better timing. We were talking about this off air prior to recording this podcast, but we have a storm actually in the Gulf right now as we record or crossing into the Gulf.
Yeah.
You just never know when they're going to pop up.
It's that time of year. It's but we're all used to it at this point. Being from South Louisiana, but it's just that time of year.
That's right. And that's going to kind of be the cusp of what we're going to talk about today is the fact that you've always got to be prepared this time of year for storms, not only hurricanes, but sometimes like what's coming in the Gulf, it's more of a rainmaker.
Yeah.
But that can be worse for South Louisiana.
Yeah, depending on precipitation up to maybe a given year and the ground's saturated. And we've had some rain here recently. It otherwise may not be an issue, but it feels like they're getting kind of earlier and earlier every year.
Yeah.
You know, the whole thing June 1st and November 1st, but I feel like here in the last few years we've had some events that are occurring earlier and earlier.
Absolutely. So before we get into it, and we're going to give you some tips today, folks, that are off the beaten path, if you will, what you're used to hearing, but as important or more important. So stay tuned for that. I do want to talk a little bit about Restoration One, your company. And David, I'd like to start off with you. You tell a story about, I call it the LinkedIn story.
Yeah.
It's become a famous story in these parts, but it blows my mind every time you tell it. So just quickly sum up how you ended up in the restoration business with Restoration.
Following the flood in 2016, I left kind of the corporate field and went to work for a local builder here. Did that for a few years and was having a lot of success, was happy with what I was doing, but there was just something inside of me, that entrepreneurial spirit that I just wanted to do.
Sure.
Turned on at the time, I think it was called Career Interest on LinkedIn, where it would send out your resume, your profile, but not alert your current employer, which is kind of
always
cool. So I turned that on and get flooded sort of in my inbox with offers and interest, I should say. And this guy selling, he's a franchise broker, selling different franchises. And after about a 10-minute call with him, I knew it's what I wanted to do. We talked about it last time.
Yep.
Researched it for a few weeks before I brought it to Marissa's attention, and her answer was, okay, let's do it. And fast forward 7 years, here we are. We've had a lot of success, been very fortunate, been able to serve and help a lot of people, have created careers for our employees. And we could not be more proud of what it is we've accomplished. Yeah.
It really has been a journey for you. And look, I'm not surprised from the minute that I met you folks. I knew you had it together. I knew you had what it took to be an entrepreneur. Definitely had the spirit for an entrepreneur, which is an important thing. And you've really just taken that ball and run with it. You have a company, franchise company behind you, Restoration One, that is really amazing with the training. I always see you on Facebook, both of y'all going to training events and just constant education, right?
Yeah, it's been a huge part of our success, is not just limiting ourselves to our local market in terms of knowledge. We've got plenty of people in the professional world that we lean on, vendors, right? You served that role for us for quite some time.
Sure.
But we've really taken advantage of the national footprint of Restoration One and what we're able to offer. For example, next week, Monday and Tuesday, I'll be up in Ohio within our peer group, which is about 15 other Restoration One owners. They lock us in a room for 2 days and we talk about business. It's all structured. And, that has been invaluable for us for the last number of years. We've been able to participate in that.
Absolutely. And of course, you're in an area where we're prone to having events, if you will, but you don't just serve people when these hurricane events happen or storms. Fire. Yeah. Which could be possibly out of the blue. You help with that.
Yeah, absolutely.
Marissa, so you are the other side, I guess the other side of Restoration One, the part B of this power couple, if you will. We've talked about fires before and things that people miss. And one of those things is like dryer lint. That was one of the things that surprised me that caused a lot of fires. And I'll tell you how serious this is. I'll tell you a personal story. actually, you gave a talk at a networking group that I was a part of. I went home and I told my wife, you won't believe this, but dryer lint, you can whole house catch on fire. And that's the number one thing that people miss. And what does my wife do? She goes and pulls the lint thing. And it was full, chock full. Now, she was like a dog to a bone at that point. She's getting it out of there, so we try to suck it out with the vacuum. I only got so much. So she's ordering things off Amazon that you fish in there to pull it out. You wouldn't believe how much we pulled out just doing that. Just shocking how important that is to do, that you would never think, right?
Yep.
You see a lot of that when you go on these jobs or you get called out for an emergency, and it's things that could have been avoided just taking a few simple steps.
Yeah, preventative maintenance is a very real thing. Equally as much, though, insurance is designed to protect us as consumers from things that they deem, sudden and accidental. Although cleaning dryer lint is a preventative maintenance thing, a lot of what we see just happens with sort of no signs of warning. Electrical shorts. I mean, when you consider how much electrical is given inside of a building and plumbing, it's really quite fascinating of all the different contact points where you could have something like that occur.
That's a good point.
So there's a huge degree of me that's, it's not divine, but if something's going to happen, it may be something that you absolutely had no control over.
Sure.
However, you get into like Christmas season, and we see it all the time with space heaters and overloaded circuits, and maybe an old breaker that was supposed to trip at 15 amps, but it didn't, and it continued to let it get hot, and then it causes a fire. So there's some things that, as consumers, we can stop ourselves from doing, but Jim, a lot of it is sudden and accidental. I mean, you had no real way of knowing, I didn't know I was supposed to inspect my plumbing once a year to make sure everything was fine. Until something happens, it's just kind of, there's no way to see it coming.
Yeah. And like, speaking of Christmas, I mean, you probably have a drawer full of chargers.
Sure. Yes.
Everybody does. And just because it fits into something doesn't mean it's the one you should use. But again, if someone's not educated on that, it fits and walks away, whether it's the hoverboard or, new toy from Christmas, phones, different things, and those can, catch fire and cause a lot of damage if not caught immediately. So, and just things like that.
That was something I also learned from you folks, and I'll tell you, I have a charger now for my lawnmower. My lawnmower runs off battery. It's awesome, actually, but these are big batteries, really big batteries, and so I'm very careful and watching that. Of course, I have to charge the thing up, but I don't leave it plugged in all the time because it kind of feels hot when you do that.
I've found myself so many times in the last few years going into the garage and taking my Ryobi or Milwaukee batteries off the charger that have been running for a month, or like the Hot Wheels, I don't know what it's called, the little Jeep we have for our son.
Yeah.
It'll be, sometimes 10 o'clock at night, and I'll open the garage. Let me go and plug that, because we've just seen so many of these house fires occur around golf carts, lawnmowers, anywhere you have battery and electrical. It's possible for it to happen.
A large amount of them start in the garage. So I mean, that's a really good place to start if you're trying to, just kind of do audit and see what can I be doing, what can I be checking on, what can I do to prevent something like this happening. Which of course you're not going to prevent it all, but the garage is definitely a good place to start.
Yeah, and I'll tell you, you folks are dealing with people in some of the worst times of their lives in some cases. Maybe their house burned down. I mean, we saw a irreplaceable plantation home burn down right across the river from us that was likely an electrical related issue in that case. But things happen out of the clear blue, and you have to have, I would imagine, Marissa, a demeanor about you, if you will, to be someone that has a calming nature, because these people, whoever you're dealing with, this is a bad moment in their life, and it's probably something you got to keep in mind all the time. I don't know how you do it, really.
We're in restoration, but we're in the business of people, and people come before the restoration, before the work authorizations, before the contracts, all of those things. And it's you're helping someone navigate, like you said, one of the most devastating events in their life, possibly, and especially if it's a home, that's their
sanctuary.
Yeah, thank you. Their sanctuary. That's where their things are, their children's things, all of the memories, all of the keepsakes, all of the photos. There are things that can be replaced, but it's just the emotional toll that it takes on someone that really has to be put before anything else. And so we make sure to really invest in training our team on that. And I think we've done a really good job at just making sure from the get-go that we hire people that already embody those same values that we have, and they are people. They are there for the person first before anything else.
One thing I'll kind of add on that is, we're not privy to the after, right? Whether it's a fire or water damage, we get in there, we do our job, and we turn the keys back over and say, hey, welcome home. I've followed up with a few of our clients in the past, or had, was it was a referral and we knew these people personally. One of the things that is never talked about from my perspective is what happens in the 6 to 12 months after something like that, especially a fire. I mean, those are going to be some pretty traumatic experiences,
Yes.
What's going to happen the first night we spend back in there? If the fire started upstairs in the kid's bedroom, am I going to be really concerned that that's going to happen again because we just went through the 6 to 8 month ordeal? So for those that go through these types of things, it's not just from the time of the event to the time we give you your keys back. It's probably a lifelong thing. We were talking about the 2016 flood off air and how we see what's happening across the country, and we naturally feel, man, we just went through that kind of stuff. And if you've lived in South Louisiana long enough, you've probably been through multiple events.
Yeah.
So it's also just as important, I think, to not only take care of people, but in the event they have some lingering trauma from what they've experienced, is to try to be there for them if necessary there as well.
Yeah, and PTSD is a real thing when it comes to that. I know many people that have PTSD from the flood, and including myself. I mean, when they talk about a lot of rain, you better believe I'm hyper focused on that Amite River at Denham Springs and what the level is of that river as it rises. And I never did that before 2016 ever.
Right.
So that is a byproduct of going through that. Let me switch gears a little bit. One thing that I think is just awesome about your company is the recognition you've received for the great work that you've done. Both of you, look, Future 5 winners, right? Marissa Hofstetter won in 2022. I say won, was selected for Future 5, and 2024, David was selected. Couldn't agree with that more. That's a testament to your leadership ability and the things that you do for your community. I think that's awesome.
Just following in Marissa's footsteps.
Yeah, there you go. That's right. That's right.
He said it, not me.
He did. And you were also a Livingston Young Professionals Member of the Year in 2020. So you're very involved in your community. And that's the point I'm getting at there. Outside of your business does tie into your community, but you're very involved. You give a lot of yourself outside of just to your business. And I think that's important when you're dealing with companies, especially in the restoration business, because there's reputable ones, and there's ones that maybe aren't so reputable. And so one thing about Restoration One, it's a legit company behind that name that is going to see it through all the way, whatever event you're going.
Yeah, I've told Marissa this a few times. She's from Livingston Parish. I'm not, but I've lived here for the last 10 years, and this is home. I grew up in Washington Parish, which is always going to be a degree of home for sure. But
yeah, I think of watermelons when I think of
the best around.
The best around.
I've picked a few of them.
Yeah,
but not having been born or from this area, but I've lived here now the entire time we've been married, and Livingston Parish is home.
Yeah,
and it's just such a great community. It has been a great place to start a business and grow, and serving that community is very important. Speaking for myself, so
yeah, and when you look at our business in restoration, we're not traditional contractors where you come up with an idea or an addition or a new home. You're planning for it, you're budgeting for it, you're shopping around, all of these things. When you call us, it's a oh crap moment, and it's something that has to be taken care of right away. And you don't have the time to shop around, to compare this or that. So trust, like you said, is so huge. We're asking people to blindly trust us, to come into their home, their sanctuary, and tell them what needs to be done and do it.
Yeah.
All very, in a very short amount of time, very quickly. So, of course, it's important. Reputation is huge for us and important for us, not only because I'm from here and we live here and our kids go to school here and play sports and all those things, but we understand the gravity of that call and that choice. And so the more we have helped our community and get to know the people in our community, it just builds that trust, and we hope that makes it easier for someone to just kind of say, hey, you're the expert, please just do what you know needs to be done.
That's right, and it reflects. As a matter of fact, just this year, Best of winner for restoration services by the Advocate. Huge honor, huge honor. There's some good ones out there, and so to win that, well deserved, and another huge honor for your company that just continues to do great things. Let's talk about some of the things that you do. I know, obviously, house fires. Big or small, what else? Storm damage, work, floods, things like that. Water damage, I guess, of any sort. Am I leaving anything out?
Mold
Remediation.
So yeah, in the state of Louisiana, you do have to be licensed in mold remediation. We do hold a mold license, so we're able to do that if the water damage was not mitigated quickly enough, or it's something that was kind of hidden and went unnoticed for some time. So we're able to take care of that as well. Biohazard, it could be anything from bed bugs to crime scene cleanup.
Yeah, we've that's probably an episode for another day in terms of the bio, because it can get pretty gnarly. But one thing in the last couple of years, we've started a new division is in personal property. So, we talk about house fires a lot. If your property sustains smoke or fire damage, we can come in and inventory every widget down to everything in the junk drawer, submit that list back to your insurance company for compensation, if it's damaged, or we can take that property, clean it, store it off site so that your house doesn't become a storage locker. It just makes the entire process that much easier. So it usually starts with personal property, then the mitigation phase, and then the subsequent repairs that need to occur. And then, oh, by the way, we'll come back at the very end of the job and put everything back in your home and set it back up to your specifications. So that's the personal property side. We started about 2 years ago when we moved into our new facility. And, so general contractor at heart, but we offer some services that nuance in the area of property and casualty.
Very interesting. And I'm going to give you a scenario real quick, and you tell me how this would be handled. So I wake up at 3 o'clock in the morning. Maybe I'm going to the restroom. I step in the bathroom and I feel water.
Yep.
And then I look down and maybe a pipe's busted. Most people aren't going to deal with that a whole lot in their lives, but when they do, they probably aren't going to know really what to do other than turn the water off, which you have a water main in the front of your house. Once that is done, a couple of interesting things about your company. Number one, you're 24/7.
Yep.
So if it's 3 o'clock in the morning, I can still call.
Doesn't matter.
David might not answer. He might answer. Hello. I'll probably call him directly.
Yeah. I've had that frog in my throat at 3 a.m. a few times. Just hello.
And if he doesn't answer, just call me.
Yeah.
Sometimes he's a hard sleeper.
Right. I get it. But you are 24/7. So that's especially good for businesses who may need to get up and running as quickly as possible.
Absolutely.
But in addition to that, you work with the insurance, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of our biggest value add services, is not the physical restoration of whatever we're doing. It's being a trusted partner in the process and the nuance of insurance and navigating claims.
Yeah.
I want to be very clear. We are not licensed adjusters. We do not make coverage decisions by any stretch. However, we do offer advice to people that say, oh, well, you have a State Farm policy, and here's what I see. Here's what we might be able to expect from this policy based on previous experience. However, we still need to corroborate that with your adjuster to make sure all is well. And most people are trusting in that sense, right?
Sure.
That goes back to reputation. And a lot of phone calls we get are based on the reviews we have, and people have done that homework before they even call. But just simply put, not only restoring physical property, but helping the insured navigate that insurance process can be invaluable. Of course, I feel that way. And I'm sure if you would poll people that we've served, they would say, yeah, I mean, I never been through this before. I wasn't sure what to expect. So again, not just having someone that's good from a trade standpoint, but also having someone with some experience to say, hey, here's what you can expect to happen. And it's also really satisfying when we explain that, and then it just falls into, and you can see minute by minute that trust starting to grow. Like, oh, yep, I did talk to my adjuster. They did corroborate what you said about XYZ. Okay, thank you. Obviously, I was a little apprehensive, but hey, let's move forward. That's always a huge win, is being able to get someone to see that, yeah, I mean, we do have experience in this, of course. And
when these insurance claims are made, is there money required up front? No money up front, just insurance verification, et cetera.
Marissa, why don't you explain kind of the mitigation kind of starting in that? You talked about blind trust a second ago. Why don't you just kind of talk about that, not only the blind trust from the client to us, but the blind trust we put in the insurance company?
Sure. So, yeah, when we were talking about this is a oh crap moment, you're not planning for it. So what we're asking someone who's standing in front of us in a flooded house or a burning house or whatever it might be, we're saying, we need you to sign this work authorization giving us permission to begin work. We don't know the exact cost yet, but we're going to work with your adjuster every step of the way. We use the same exact software that they use for pricing. It's line item pricing. We're going to keep them informed if there's anything that comes up. We're going to make sure that they know about it. If there's anything that needs special permission, we're going to talk to them about it. And we're going to be that liaison between, between the insured and the insurance carrier. And we're going to make sure that there are no surprises and that everything is done and documented correctly, so that whenever we submit this invoice on your behalf, that we're going to get that, that payment from the carrier that you're owed based on your policy. So again, that takes a lot of blind trust from someone, which is also why it's so important to have the reputation in your community, to earn that trust from somebody. And then on the flip side of that, we're also performing work with $0 down, and we're blindly trusting our customer that whenever those funds are deposited or received, that they're going to give us what we're owed.
Sure.
So both parties are asking, for a lot of trust from one another in that sense.
And I'll tell you, you almost cannot put a price on I don't want to use the term you're holding somebody's hand and walking them, but you kind of are. Absolutely. People and this is a stressful time already for people, especially people that don't deal with it often. And so the last thing they want to have to do is deal with not knowing the proper steps that they need to take in order to get resolution to that issue, whatever it is, whether it's water damage, smoke, mold, whatever. So you just can't put a price on it. And you can mention reviews, and I'm glad you mentioned that. I wanted to, throughout this podcast, I'm going to review a couple of these reviews with the people listening. I think those are important. And one that really stuck out to me, I'm going to read it quickly. It says, woke up at 3:30 a.m. to chaos. My neighbor's garage fire jumping to our place. Cats freaking out, tearing up the side of the house. This person can write, by the way, very well. And through the attic. Between the fire and the water from the firefighters, the house was nearly a total loss. And you don't think about that, but the water from the fire hoses. Eventually stripped down to the studs, needed a new roof and second floor frame. Truly terrible situation. But here comes Restoration One of Baton Rouge. Specifically, is it Antoine?
Antoine.
Okay, stepped up big time. He was my main point of contact through the entire ordeal. And that right there is what we were just talking about. There's a contact there that is working with you. This person described it as an ordeal. This is not something fun, His sister lives down the street, called him immediately, and he was there, introduced himself while things were still unfolding. By 10 a.m., his crew was already tarping and securing what was left of our house. The immediate response in a crisis meant everything.
Yeah.
Huge.
We pride ourselves so much on reviews because, I mean, look, anyone can get on there and say whatever they want.
Sure.
Right? So we don't take feedback like that for granted. And this case in particular, I mean, this was a 10-month relationship. From the time the fire occurred to the time these folks were able to move back in was 10 months, Jim. You're talking, we were a part of their life for a significant portion. Oh, by the way, these folks got married a month into this.
What?
So the fire occurred and they got married, went on a honeymoon. And when they came back, we had accomplished mini scope. So
yeah,
you talk about trust, we can't underscore how important that is.
Huge. And the fact that this person took the time to really,
right.
And I only read a couple paragraphs of it, folks, but you can go on there and look, and I encourage you to do that. Check out these reviews, but that meant the impression you put on them was something where they said, I'm going to really be descriptive about how happy I was with the service from this company. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's hard. People will, I say it all the time, if they have a bad experience, in 2 seconds, they'll give a negative review. Someone that has a good experience, sometimes they expect that, so they don't go give the review.
Right.
But you have a lot of glowing reviews. And I think that is a testament to the good work you're doing for the community. There's
Absolutely.
no doubt about it. Let's get into some hurricane prep stuff that we've put together today. I want to talk a little bit about that. And it's not always a hurricane that comes through, as we discussed earlier, that may cause a situation where you need to call Restoration One. But the good thing about the fact that hurricanes blow through here is that usually you have a little warning.
Right.
There's a little time when it's sitting in the Gulf. One thing people need to keep in mind, though, you can't call and get insurance when it's in the Gulf.
Nope.
The name's don't miss the Gulf. It's over. Yeah.
Yeah. So once it hits that Gulf, it is too late. So make sure, number one, that you're insured. What is something that maybe you see more often than not that they miss?
You mean as far as coverage?
Well, both coverage and the prep work ahead of time.
Yeah. Coverages are, and I want to be, again, like a full disclaimer about being a judge. I am not a licensed insurance professional. Yep. However, we see this so much that it has forced me to go review our own policies, right? After seeing something with a certain carrier, like, hey, let me make sure I've got that on my house.
Yeah.
As hard as this is to ask the audience to do, you really need to know your policy as well as you can. And that's why you have an agent. Whoever you bought that policy from, that is their job. And the agents that we partner with and the people we talk to want to be that conduit to say, I want you to understand what's in your policy. I would suspect as an agent that if an event occurs and I have someone call me and I've got to say, hey, Jim, you don't have coverage for that because of X, Y, Z, right? I got to imagine it's a pretty gutting feeling.
Yeah.
You want to be there. You've sold them something. Obviously, I would imagine that that's a challenging thing to deliver, to say, yeah, you have this policy, but here. So we find a lot of those agents want to explain it. They want their clients to be educated on what it is they're covered for and against. And frankly, it should make, I would imagine it makes their job easier in the time of event because they've laid the correct expectations. So I'm probably going to indirectly answer your question, but just knowing your policy, knowing what coverages you have, no one wants to be surprised. You mentioned off air during the flood of the difference between, structure insurance and contents on flood.
Yep.
I'm going to imagine that was a big kick in the gut.
Oh, yeah.
And we've heard dozens of those stories. We didn't have flood insurance back in 2016. Flood Zone X, didn't know any better.
Yeah.
We'll never make that mistake again.
Yeah.
But anyway, you pay this premium, you have coverage in place. You really, and the onus should be on you as the policyholder to know what you have.
Sure.
Again, talking about blind trust, that's okay too. But communicating those needs to your agent to say, look, I've heard these stories of X, Y, Z. I don't want that to happen to me. What's that provision in that policy going to cost extra, if anything, for us to be insured against that? Yeah,
great point. And one thing that you probably run into a lot, and I know with my policy, I didn't realize that this was an addendum to your policy. It wasn't something automatically included. It was like sewer coverage.
sewer drain.
So if your sewer backed up, your toilet backed up, I don't know, pick a tragedy, but unless you have that extra endorsement on your insurance,
yep.
on your own, and y'all probably see that.
We see it often, and a lot of carriers will cap that coverage at around 10% of policy max. So if you're insured for $250,000 on your structure, you've got $25,000 worth of coverage in that example for sewer and drain backup if it applies. And there's different kickers on what is considered sewer and drain backup versus not. But that $25,000 includes all of it: the mitigation, the personal property, the repairs, any ALE, which we'll get into in a second in terms of what that means. That's an all-encompassing coverage. So if the mitigation alone is $10,000, well, you really only have $15,000 left to put it back together. And often those coverages may not be enough to support the amount of damage that's there. So anyway, just knowing what's in your policy is critical. Please consult with your agent, review it annually. If you hear of something happening to someone, go audit your own policy. And I implore you to make sure you have the coverage necessary.
Yeah.
And making sure that you have access to it after the event may happen. I would say having both digital, whether it's screenshotting it on your phone, but then let's say the power goes out, can't charge your phone, it dies, whatever the situation is, having a paper copy as well, and just making sure to, seal it in something watertight to keep, putting it up high, putting it in a Rubbermaid container or, Ziploc bag, just things like that, once the damage has been done, you're not thinking about that. Those are things you can do ahead of time to just be prepared all hurricane season long.
I've got to give a shout out to the people of Livingston Parish. It may surprise you. It surprised me in the early days of how many people have physical copies of their policies these days.
Yeah.
It's actually really high.
Yeah.
I've been on countless jobs where I show up, and this is not always a rhetorical question. I'll say, hey, do you happen to have a copy of your policy, your declarations page at least, so that we can see what you have? Yeah, no problem. Here you go. And it's like, that happens a lot.
Yeah.
So I want to give a shout out to the people of this parish. It happens a lot.
We love paper around here. I have a paper copy.
See, that's exactly what I'm saying. That was not rehearsed. It happens so often, and as a contractor, again, we're not determining coverage, but at least giving us an idea. It happens often on fire. Personal property can sometimes be undervalued.
Sure.
Jim, if you go in your house right now, I'm not going to loud cap you here, but you and your home have upwards, if not more than $100,000 worth of clothes, spoons, cups. I mean, your personal property adds up in a heartbeat.
No doubt about it. Especially larger families.
Oh,
my case, 5 people.
It's nothing for a 2,000 square foot house, just to give a number, to have $100,000 to $200,000 worth of actual clothing, just anything, computer screens, everything. I mean, those TVs are. So
it's unbelievable.
We see it often on the personal property side. There sometimes can be some coverage deltas, and it's so important for us on that very first day to go, hey, you have a 2,000 square foot house. I would suspect you have X in terms of value. You have $75K worth of coverage. We need to be very careful on what you're requesting here, because we don't want to run up a tab with the insurance company and take away from that number to get you reimbursed for your mattresses, your couches, your clothes. Like, we have to take all that into consideration.
Yeah.
All that to say, having copies of your deck page for us often helps steer the ship in terms of how we should approach something.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a roadmap to what you need to get back whole again. Absolutely. Or what's possible.
And I think to go in along with that, the documentation of your contents ahead of time.
Yeah.
It's different than if, you had a leak in your bathroom. Someone like Restoration One would go in and document those things after the fact, because that's not going to affect hundreds of thousands of dollars of contents.
Sure.
But when we're talking about hurricanes, storms, floods, you've probably heard to just go through every room of your house, and video would be the quickest way, but you can take time-stamped photos, especially those higher priced items, those jewelry, valuables, things like that, because God forbid your roof get torn off, or flood comes up 6 feet in your house. How are you exactly going to prove exactly what it was that you had?
I cannot tell you how many times this just happened here locally for a house fire we were doing. I mentioned it's called a pack out and a pack in. We inventory, we take everything out, and then we bring it back when it's time. We brought a client's belongings back to them after their house was put back together, and the feedback that got to me was, "Oh, I forgot I had this. I forgot I had that." I mean, in your home, you may have some things stashed away in a closet that you sort of forgot about, but people, you have a lot of stuff, whether you're a collector of things or not. Just any one person that is affected by this has more than they consider. It always happens when you move, right? You're like, I did not realize how much stuff we had.
Yes,
I didn't know it was
to pack it and unpack it.
Right.
Or after the flood, when you're packing it out to the front yard and it's a mountain,
curb,
and you're like, wow, we had this much stuff in the house.
And
unbelievable.
And on that too, also, people want to get the wet stuff out as soon as possible, and when in a large event like that, but a lot of times the adjusters are going to want to see what was removed from the house, or at least have good video and photos of it.
Yep.
So before
I
you just start
that.
throwing stuff out, make sure that you really speak to your adjuster and get the okay, or get that documentation.
Yeah, because that's a proof that you actually had it.
Yep. Right.
And I remember specifically during the flood, a lot of chatter of, if you throw it in your front yard, don't let them pick it up. Keep it there, or take pictures of it or something first to have some proof of what you lost, which, after the fact, we all did. But taking a video of it ahead of time, I think if it's a fire, it's gone. So if you take a video of it, at least you have something there to remember what you had, because unlike a flood, with a fire, it's non-existent. A lot of that stuff just burns up completely.
Absolutely.
So very important and very good point. And I'll say something else on that front, and that is, make sure that you start your generator. Pretty much everybody, if you live in South Louisiana, you've got a generator at least. And make sure you start that every season when it starts, June 1st, for those that don't know. And actually, I went out there to do it last season, and when I started it, my gas was leaking everywhere. I dry rotted hoses, and I ended up getting another generator. But I wouldn't have known that if I wouldn't have went out there. And the worst time to find that out is after a storm, when you don't have electricity.
Yeah, that not only the lines at the box stores get pretty long, and people
man,
looking for generators and not fuel and everything else. Yeah, again, being from South Louisiana, your listeners here are obviously going to likely, this won't be theory. They will be reflecting on some memories of, I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember Ida, Gustav. I remember those.
Oh yeah. And, it doesn't, this year, for example, they projected at the beginning of the hurricane season it was going to be a higher than average year. Now they've kind of backed off on that a little bit. But just some information for everybody, don't pay too much attention to those numbers. In 1992, they had one storm hit Louisiana. That was it, but it was Hurricane Andrew.
Yeah.
And it was a mess around here for quite a while. If you remember that, I was in high school when that storm hit, and I do remember it. Only one that year, but all it takes is one. Yeah. That's the thing.
You mentioned something earlier that's typically we do have some runway time to hey, a storm's on the way. If you and your listeners will remember, Ida spun up, and within 72 hours, it was on shore as a Cat 3.
Yeah.
I just remember it formed off the Yucatan right there in the Southern Gulf.
Oh yeah,
and it seems like within 24 hours, it's like, get out of town. I mean, this thing's going to be serious. Get away from the coastline. From my recollection, the path for the longest was between Lafayette and Baton Rouge, right?
Yeah.
And if we all remember, I mean, that thing tore Springfield and Albany up. I mean, that path kept shifting to the east, and it almost like it was changing every hour on the hour.
Yeah.
And then I remember when it came on shore, it sat on top of Lafourche Parish for what seemed like hours, right? And then it kind of jogged, and then that's when it came north. But these things are just so unpredictable. You talk about being fascinated with weather, and just the sheer respect we should have for these things. And that's why it's important, not only from a coverage standpoint, to make sure we're taking care of ourselves, but just respecting these things in general, because, everyone remembers 2005 with Katrina and Rita. That was, God forbid we ever experience anything that devastating again.
Yeah, that's right.
And then Laura, Delta, Zeta, Southwest Louisiana.
Yeah.
It's been 5 years now, which is crazy. But yeah, these things are just, it's good to be prepared, but just respect them in general because you never know what can happen.
Yeah, and another good hint for you to prep for any type of storm, always have a waterproof bag with your prescriptions and things like that in it. It's one of the most important things you can do.
Yeah.
You run, medicine gets ruined.
Right. Or
Not good.
Or if it's, the damage is catastrophic and your local pharmacies aren't open for month, 2 months, 3 months. So it just makes it that much more difficult to get those refills and things like that. So yeah, I mean, I would, things like that you can go out and do, some things that most people don't think about. We all know to go get your canned foods, go get your hurricane snacks, get stocked up on all the things. But, you don't think about sting kits.
Yeah.
You're picking up debris and you're disturbing things that haven't been disturbed in some time, and there's a huge nest and someone gets stung, or just, those are often the things that aren't thought of in that initial planning. But, cooling kits for your pets.
Great point.
They have all of those types of things out there that are available, and often, in South Louisiana, people like to joke about, when a hurricane comes and it's not bad, and then, I would rather that every single time than getting more damage than, you expected. So this is stuff that you can buy ahead of time, have it ready just in case. Hopefully you don't have to use it, but when the time comes and you need it, you'll be very thankful that you did.
Yeah, I say a lot. I would rather have it and not need it than need it and not have it. I mean, every day of the week, because I've been on both sides of that in different things. So totally agree with that. Now, let's switch gears again and let's talk about the mistakes that people make when these storms come. What do they miss the most? And I know one of those is what we've already discussed, access to insurance. They didn't maybe print out that form and put it in a waterproof deal. And you may say, hey, everything's online now. I can just pull it up. Well, not if you don't have internet.
Yeah.
Been there, done that a couple of times.
Yeah.
So always have that backup. No understanding of what's actually covered, which is something you help walk people through.
Yeah.
I mean, you can look over. He's not a State Farm agent or an agent of any type, but he certainly deals with insurance frequently.
I would say, not to belabor this point, but just knowing what's in your policy is just so important. In the time of natural disaster, everyone wants to get started as soon as possible. There is nuance to this. Getting approvals may be hard. Often in a cat event, you've got adjusters from all over the country that fly in, for certain natural disasters. Your adjuster may be from who knows where, USA, and may be here on a deployment for a month to adjust as many of these as possible. That's your field adjuster. Your desk adjuster may be sitting in Dallas somewhere or in Los Angeles. You never know. So documenting things, for me, expectations are very important in life. And, we loosely had a discussion about deductibles. Many people get caught off guard during a named storm that their hurricane deductible is 2 to 5 times what it may normally be. If you have a 1% deductible, your hurricane may be 2 to 5%.
Wow.
And it comes in a lot on a large event. If you have $100,000 worth of damage and you have a 5% deductible, that money's going to come out of your pocket as the insured.
Sure.
Contractors are not allowed to eat deductibles.
Yeah.
Public service announcement, because it does happen. But anyway, it's incredibly important to have the right set of expectations too. We talked about sort of being let down from a knowledge standpoint. We want as many people to go into it eyes wide open as possible, and not, number one, have to be the bearer of bad news when we say, "Hey, Ms. Smith, did you notice this 5% deductible here?" Well, no. What does that mean? And then we've got to deliver that information. It's a lot easier to say, "Hey, I'm just making sure you're aware of your deductible." Yes, I'm aware. I know it's high. We'll figure it out.
Yeah.
That's a much more comfortable conversation than being the one to literally tell them, "Hey, this is going to cost you a few extra bucks, and here's why."
I can only imagine. Yeah, that cannot be any fun at all, especially when you're already going through it, and you hear things about that. one thing I want everybody to do right now is I want them to take their phones and I want them to type Restoration One in it and a phone number. First of all, what's your contact information? Anything anybody has in the way of water damage, fire damage, smoke damage, mold remediation, those sorts of things, what's the phone number?
So you can reach us at 225-277-0807. Now, of course, if you were to Google us or Google My Business, number is different. They all come to the same place.
Yeah.
We can be reached on any of our social media platforms, sending a message on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. Those will get answered very quickly, but calling us, of course, is the quickest way to get in touch with someone on our team who is ready and willing to help.
We talked about the 24/7 thing, so I think it's important that we have 4 people on call at every moment of the day, 365 days a year.
That's unbelievable. You know, that blows my mind because that's some logistics there. Yeah. And I'm like, man, how does David and Marissa pull that off?
Google Calendar and really, really good people who believe in the mission and the values of what we represent.
And I think that is something that I want everybody to get out of today's podcast is people matter. And to me, it matters. I want to do business with people that are good people, that care about the community, give beyond themselves, things like that. And you are both shining examples of that. And in addition, you're pretty darn good at what you do.
Yeah.
So it's the best of both worlds.
I tell our team this all the time, having a servant's heart is critical to our success. And I've been very upfront with people that have worked for us in the past. If you lose sight of that, if you lose sight of the empathy of the people we're serving, you're not going to make it in this industry. It's too tough. It is unlikely that if you don't care about what we do, when I call you at 3 a.m. to get out of bed, when it's 30 degrees outside, if you don't care about serving, you're probably not going to last very long in this industry, and it's not just us. Sure. So having that servant's heart is just critical to us providing the level of service that we need to provide.
I can't agree more. And so, folks, I'm going to link the website in the description of this podcast and some of their social media. Go give them a like on Facebook. They share great tips on the Facebook page that keep you engaged, if you will. Also, take your phone, Restoration One, put in the number now. If you ever need them, it's already in there. Right. You ain't gotta go hectic looking for what was the number of that Local Leaders podcast. Put it in there right now. It'll be there. Save it, and 24/7.
We're ready to serve.
Ready to serve. Thank you so much for coming on and helping get people prepared for what they can do to maybe take some of that sting out of hurricane season should a storm come this way.
And Jim, thanks for having us. Thrilled to be back. It's been a few years
since
we did
it. It has been. It's interesting. It popped up on my Facebook feed. I want to say last week or the week before, but it said 3 years ago or something like that. And I'm like, wow, has it been that long?
Yeah. And thanks for the great work you do in getting the words out for local businesses. It's invaluable. Thank you.
Labor of love for me. I'm just blessed to sit down with good business people. And I learn every day, just like everybody else with good business people that come on this show. You certainly reflect that. I am so happy to see the massive success that you've had. It's all earned, and it came through a lot of hard work. And here we go.
Our success is owed to our team, and we'd be remiss if we walked out of here without saying that we've had the success we've had because we've got the right people in the right seats. We've got people that care about what they do. We have people that care about serving the person in front of them, and without our team, which has grown to 25 plus at this point, without them, this doesn't exist. So there's no way we're walking out of here without acknowledging them. They're the real heroes behind all of this.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And all of that comes from good leadership. And look, y'all are husband and wife duo here, and so it requires a strong relationship to be able to pull that one off.
Yes, it does.
And
Amen.
So it's no doubt about it. Wendy Chapman, you ain't coming to work here anytime soon. No, just kidding. I'm gonna cut that out.
No, she's too busy getting the dryer lint out.
Yeah, that's right. Get that lint out. That's right. Well, thank you so much for coming on, and folks, give them a like on Facebook. I want to see some people out there hitting that like button, and click that link and check them out on their website for more information. And until next time, I'm Jim Chapman, your host of Local Leaders, the podcast, reminding you, love your community, support local business and local restoration companies, and keep leading. Thank you very much.